Good morning, boys and girls. Today our stories are going to be about a seahorse. Have any of you ever seen a seahorse? They're really quite neat looking. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist this way and that. "It's time for me to lay my eggs," she said. "Can I help?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Oh, yes, thank you," said Mrs. Seahorse. And she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. "I'll take good care of our eggs," said Mr. Seahorse. "I promise." As Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a group of trumpet fish hidden in the patch of reeds. All right, there they are hidden. And there are the trumpet fish. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Stickleback?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Delighted," replied Mr. Stickleback. "I just built a nest," and right away Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs into it. "Now I'm taking good care of them until they hatch." "Keep up the good work," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam away. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a lionfish hidden behind a coral reef. All right, let's see our lion. Oh, look at our lionfish. That coral reef hit really well, didn't it? All right. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you?" asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of eggs. I know," said Mr. Seahorse. "The missus has laid her eggs, and now you're taking good care of them until they hatch." And he nodded. "You must be very happy," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a pair of leaf fish hidden among the seaweed. All right, let's see what the leaf fish look like. Oh, look at those. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Curtis?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Perfectly fine," replied Mr. Curtis. "Mrs. Curtis laid her eggs, and I have stuck them on my head. Now I'm taking good care of them until they hatch." "You are doing a good job," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam away. See, there they are on top of his head. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a stonefish hidden behind a rock. All right, there's our stonefish. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Pipe?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Couldn't be better," replied Mr. Pipe. "Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs along my belly. Now I'm taking good care of them until they hatch." "You should feel proud of yourself," said Mr. Seahorse as he swam on his way. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Bullhead?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Tip-top," replied Mr. Bullhead. Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs, and the eggs hatched. "Now I am babysitting." "You're doing a fine job," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. The time had come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and he twisted this way and that, and at last the babies tumbled from Mr. Seahorse's pouch. See, there they go, and swam away. One baby turned around and tried to come back into the pouch. "Oh, no," said Mr. Seahorse. I do love you, but now you are ready to be out on your own. Okay. Alright, our next one is Pete the Cat, Scuba Cat. See, he has on his scuba gear. And I think he finds a seahorse too. Pete the cat is excited. He's going scuba diving. Pete puts on a mask and fins. He has a tank full of air. He hopes to see lots and lots of fish. See, there he is. If you are lucky, you might see a seahorse, says Captain Joe. A seahorse, says Pete. I can't wait. I never saw one before. Their ridges look like a horse's mane, said Captain Joe. Groovy, says Pete. Pete jumps into the water and goes splash. Down, down, down he goes. Up, up, up go the bubbles. Pete looks for a seahorse. He sees a swordfish. Pete swims out of his way. Pete waves to a stingray. It has a long, skinny tail. That's not a seahorse, thinks Pete. Pete looks high and low for the seahorse. Then he feels a little tickle. See, there's his little seahorse there. Pete sees a school of fish. They all look alike, except for one. Look at that one. He definitely doesn't look like those, does he? It puffs up. It is a blowfish. It is not a seahorse. Look at the blowfish there. Where could one be? Pete looks in the rocks. What is this? Look, there's our octopus. And it has 8 legs. That's not a seahorse. Pete feels a tickle. What could it be? Pete turns around and he sees a cave. Is there a seahorse inside there? Pete sees a crab with claws. A seahorse does not have claws, Pete thought. The cave is getting darker and darker, but Pete feels a tickle. Look, see, there's the seahorse right outside there. Then he sees an eel. Pete swims past it. It is too long to be a seahorse. Oh no, it is too dark to see. How will Pete get out? Then Pete sees a jellyfish, and it glows in the dark. Pete is almost out of the cave. He sees an angelfish. It is very, very colorful. Pete is out of the cave, so why is it so dark in there? Pete is in a shadow. He is in the shadow of a whale. Yikes! Pete wishes he could jump on a seahorse and ride away. Pete hops on a sea turtle instead. It takes him to the boat. I did not see a seahorse, thinks Pete. He feels a little tickle. See, the seahorse has been the one that's been tickling him all along. A seahorse, cried Pete. What a surprise. You were with me all along, said Pete. What a cool adventure. He didn't even realize his friend the seahorse had been there the whole time. Okay, our next one is one lonely seahorse. He's all by himself. Beneath the ocean, deep and wide, one lonely drifting seahorse cried. In all the cold and salty sea, I'm all alone. There's only me. Her name was Bee, and Bee was blue, and as she cried, her sadness grew. We'll be your friends, we're not alone, called two small crabs by a big round house. Look at the crabs. So they're going to be Bee's friends. Three pufferfish came from behind. We'll join you too, if you don't mind. All right, looks like she's getting lots of friends. Four lobsters down below called, hey, you're our pal too. Come on, let's play. Five turtles circled Bee to say, can we help out in any way? Look at the sea turtles. They help her. Six playful dolphins then arrived. Hey Bee, they called, let's leap and dive. Seven eels, what a shock. You're so unhappy. We should talk. Look at the eels there. An octopus said, we were here too. All 8 of us had hugs for you. All right, look at the octopus. What else does that octopus look like? Can you tell me what it looks like? What is that octopus? Could that be a banana? 9 mackerel. They came swimming by you. You feel lonely. Tell us why. 10 school of angelfish appeared. 10 little voices laughed and cheered. Looked at the school of angelfish. You are my friend, said Bee. That's true, and I can always count on you. So Bee wasn't by herself very long, was she? All right, boys and girls, we will see you next week. Have a great week.